and this is in a series of sessions that NEN conducts. Thanks for joining us. Our topic for this afternoon happens to be my team, my success, finding a co-founder and a right team. And for every growing startup and an organization in our knowledge economy, people are central to the growth, and which means that we are perennially hiring all the time. And to add to that, like India, there's also some element or a large portion of attrition that we are hit all the time. That hiring happens to be the double horse that we need to ride as long as we wish to run a company. So having said, the fundamental definition always said finding the right person for the right job, as what it means to hire a person into a company. Now, the number of words in that sentence is as complex or more is finding the right person for the right job. And having spent many years hiring people or building businesses, personally, I have seen I mean there's a long process, and we have multiple stages. But I wish to probably break it into 4 different aspects of these stages of hiring. I call what is critical and important is the first one, which is defining the needs for the hiring and really planning the hiring process. And yes, there are multiple stages starting from sourcing, shortlisting, screening, assessments, closing, releasing an offer, onboarding, etc., etc. But the definition and the needs planning is as important as we do a business plan, or probably our own technical milestones if we are running a technology company, or even financial milestones. It's like organization milestone is a 5-year plan. And how do we integrate? I mean, this is one example, I found really helpful, which I've seen somewhere, is to really keep our hiring plan or the workforce hiring plan as clear as my financial milestones or my customer acquisition milestones, and keep looking at this plan as a founder or somebody who is owning a startup or a company on a continuous basis, and keep looking and reviewing where do I stand on my plan, which is extremely critical. And each and every role then is the time that I will be able to give sufficient time to define my need and then go into the hiring process. The good news is hiring that I told is each hiring process is unique, and each and every hiring experience is so unique that we may not be repeating the same mistakes twice, but nevertheless hiring is really complex. And how do I create my startup founding team? If I can say a startup founding team is what I want to start with. For every startup, just like who I am when I founded the company, I want to look for creators. I want to really find those people who are creators, but not probably those who are just operators and who keep waiting for instruction. That's probably one of those aspects that I really want to look for. And so, like I mentioned before, when I'm hiring for a skill that I know or I'm familiar or I have experience in or I have already done it in the past, then the idea is to lay the groundwork myself, completely create the objectives, key result areas, and everything to do with that role, and define it completely even before hiring the individual for that role. The other option could be to hire someone who will build it all by themselves, who will build, own, operate, and deliver. but you know what I have to be clear is, you know, the story about, you know, my company, what I want to do, what is my plan, why am I doing this, what's the value prop, etc., etc. Extremely clear. You know, it's like, you know, refining the code. That if we are, you know, some of us are technology people in the group, we have to go through this, you know, refining of my stated objectives of hiring, almost a few iterations before really hitting, you know, the process. The process which I mean is the hiring process, which starts from sourcing. Sourcing, sourcing actually, you know, there's a lot of buzz and, you know, action happening there. In a country like India, and I work with top two brands of recruiting and staffing like Adecco and Randstad. I can tell you it's a very fragmented industry, and you find almost 30,000 plus hiring companies if you really, you know, want to go and find them. But I tried putting them, positioning, you know, these various sources uh, in a cost versus, you know, credibility of sourcing kind of a matrix. And if you notice, the best one, you know, which probably I would want to choose is an endorsement from a trusted individual, you know, somebody I know, or probably, you know, my advisor, the board that I'm reporting to, or, you know, set of people around me who I trust, of knowing, you know, this people aspects, you know, or who my company would need, and go by those endorsements or, you know, references first, because it doesn't cost me much, and I can be, you know, rest assured credible about the person that I'm going to meet. But yes, you know, there are very expensive models, which is usually the outsourced recruitment partners and those executive search companies who would want to charge for my company to, you know, transform into their own, like, you know, carefully laid and experienced processes, you know, that they want to implement in my company. Another good idea is obviously, you know, using job boards and networking, social sites, etc. But I'm not really, you know, wanting to go through all these details because, like I said, each hiring is unique, and, you know, each experience is, you know, very different from the previous one. But yes, you know, this is the lay of the land, and this is how it is when we go and hire in the market, from the market. Now, instead of going through all those 8 or 10 processes of hiring, I'd rather, you know, want to spend a little more time on what not to do while, you know, hiring or, you know, going through this hiring process. Often, if like I, you know, mentioned before, if I've jumped into a hiring much earlier than, you know, the thought in my mind is mature, or, you know, when the time is right. Usually what happens is my definitions and objectives are loosely defined, which go through iterations, and probably I would have started a hiring process in parallel. And I may meet people, and, you know, there's one scale in my mind, and I keep trying to force fit these people into that scale, which is normally not a good idea. But you know, if my decision, my definition is clear, and, you know, I'm very knowledge about, you know, who I'm going to hire, then it is easier to go find them than the other way around. So the important thing that I would emphasize, define well, is the culture of probably, you know, the company that I've already built, or, you know, probably that I'm aspiring to build, or in the future, you know, what is my goal, definition of what my company has to be looking like. So obviously, you know, each company has its own, as they call it, you know, the smell of the place. So, you know, I can't go and say I will implement a culture of Google or Wipro or some other company that I know of, but it's good to actually define our own set of culture standpoint. And similarly, also the compatibility aspect, which with the other people around, or, the important key resources, that I have in my current at my current stage. I need to really look at all these aspects very clearly while probably evaluating the people. So this is a stage when I say is when I already identified my sourcing strategy, and I have found some suitable candidates, if I may call candidates. Then I'm really trying to evaluate, and that as a hiring process. Then while I say this, it's a process, but hiring is also about not just science, but there's also art, of trying to assess an individual, match, what I'm hearing, what I'm listening from that individual to what I need, and keep evaluating, what is important, what is not so important, what is relevant, what is not so relevant, etc., etc. As we are doing this so-called process called interviewing or screening. And what I do not want to be hit at this stage is probably bow down to that so-called power of bias, as we call it in recruiting industry. The halo effect, because I know names of a few educational institutions, or probably I have studied in those colleges, and therefore or probably the familiarity of the companies that I worked, or that I know, and therefore I'm getting biased while I'm hiring somebody, and try to hire myself. Usually it's good to hire a complementary skill or capability which is useful for a startup where the resources are limited, and there are a lot of people doing multiple things, and or maybe there's only one individual who is probably the go-to person for multiple activities. So obviously without having a bias, without trying to force fit a person into the candidate into a known individual, we have to do this assessment independent of these. Then just because I have spent too long defining my hiring needs, or probably meeting too many people, and not liking anyone, and towards the end of the deadline, or my own timeline, there's some amount of desperation that happens, and I may end up hiring fast, and that is something that is always good to avoid, because hiring decisions, if they're not correct, they impact the whole company for a very long term, and not just our own situations, but also the people who are in the company at this point of time. Then as I said, there is a stage called closing and offer, and there is also a stage called onboarding. The few of common errors that we may make is try and offer too much money, and usually we should not get trapped, irrespective of what the person claims to be costing us. But yes, it is a good way. It's important, because most of us, when we are starting up a company, and our backgrounds, and most of the startup founders are the people with middle class upbringing, and people who understand the value of money, and therefore it's important not to create that image to the market that we spend the money too much, so and most importantly, as salary. And all of us have already been reading the press, in the last few months, whatever is going on when companies have spent exorbitantly higher amounts of money on people and salary. So, which is not a good idea. It's always good to set the culture of being a careful spender than to someone who spends too much. And then is the last one, which I thought I only picked the important ones, typically that keep coming across as questions, by startups and founders and CEOs that I interact with on a regular basis. Is what's a real good title, and usually it's good not to block a future growth by giving away fancy titles, which is also not reasonably important, because titles and money is something that we tend to give. It's more as paper use, how much we get into this, how much we give, and that is what works well on both sides, and these are the few points, which I kept, which I felt were important, but I will leave scope for questions when people really have more to know in terms of what else and what not in this aspect. So I would probably want to pause here if there are any questions. Masood, if you are on the call.
Yeah, actually we have not got any questions.
And if you can tell us how we are doing on the time.
Yeah, we have not got any questions so far, so we can continue with the next thing, hiring and co-founders. If there are, we'll
okay. So this session has two topics. So first one happens to be building teams, which I've taken up, and the other one is more closer to hiring my co-founder. The first few co-founders that I really want to hire. In terms of process, in terms of the activities, they remain to be almost similar, but co-founder is lot more closer to building the company and growing the company along with me, and part owning or co-creating the entity that we together aspire to build. So hence there's a little more stress on who should be the right co-founder. While we follow all those steps and process, there is some additional attention. So in a normal large company hiring, there is something called as leadership hiring or CXO hiring. So CXO hiring is definitely done more carefully and a lot more attention to it than hiring the rest of the team. But both are equally important for any startup and growing organization. So what does it mean, having a co-founder? These are studies and insights say that 62% of startups fail, and the number one startup killer has always been co-founder conflict. There is also probably a couple of more reasons why hiring a co-founder is extremely important and critical to give it more attention. So these are the 2-3 things that I thought will become important while I'm looking for a co-founder, and and one question that keeps coming to me repeatedly, if the person is very senior or skill set outside my knowledge. Like for instance, I'm bringing a CFO on board, or somebody from HR, or even sales and marketing, which probably I feel is not my core competence, how do I deal with this situation? Maybe it's different from if I'm a techie and hiring more technology people. Is a lot easier or probably more familiar than to hire somebody from a different sphere altogether. And obviously all these roles also form an important constitute the important formation of any company. So these are the key. So these are a few aspects which most of the guidance and mentorship says. Keep looking for complementary skills and not just hire the same similar skill set. Or if I'm a sales guy, I will want to bring a person with more thinking. If there is something called as typefaces, personality typefaces. MBTI is one of the tool which evaluates such personality typefaces. Things like people who are thinkers, people who are doers, people who are bots. So you can always evaluate a person's typeface, personality typeface, and also we can take the test ourselves, to know our own typeface, and we'll keep looking for these complementary typefaces and personality traits, which is a good way of doing it. Like I said, there is no one standard method that anybody follows. There are multiple ways in which we keep solving these problems and these puzzles. Then the cultural match. Cultural match is important for almost all hirings in a company. But yes, when I'm looking for a co-founder, compatibility becomes additional important aspect. And this compatibility doesn't come by probably doing three interviews or meeting in two different social setups, etc. But it is more to do with clearly going through the whole process and getting others involved in the hiring process of a co-founder. So there is no such standard rule. If 3 meetings are done, then you're supposed to know your co-founder, etc. So it can be, and there are certain good videos that any one of us can download and view in terms of how do I get this cultural match and compatibility fitment correctly. So there are coaching sessions that are already uploaded in various platforms. I repeated the creator and not operator philosophy because normally we tend to go by looking at people coming from large setups, in the sense of companies which are extremely large and very large companies, hoping that this person will come with all the process systems and understanding of how to build a large organization for future. But many large organizations, if the person is not playing the role of being a intrapreneur, as I can, if you will, then we find people who are waiting for instruction are probably handling a very small portion of the overall objective of the company. So in our hiring problems, what we look for is people who probably have created new locations or initiated new business units, or probably somebody who is probably started off a new technology division of some things like that, where there is streaks of creating something which we see as a skill and as a repeated success factor in the person, and not somebody who is been a part of a large project or been a part of a large location, irrespective of how well known and reputed those brand associations may have been. So that is something that one needs to really go through, because a startup environment and a growing company, an early stage company, is always dynamically shifting, altering, and changing based on how the customers are driving these changes, etc. And which means someone should really understand this way of changing plan and creating a new plan based on the customer's needs, and dynamically altering the course. It should not be a concern for the person who is going to join us, and more importantly, if the person is our co-founder, because like I said before, the conflicts in thinking arise because probably there is a change and there is a denial to this change, and that's usually the beginning and the start point. So one must really look for those people who know and understand. And some of these startup mentors also state and tell companies it is also good to probably bring a person who's already done a startup or two and not been so successful. They really have good vision and understanding of what not to do, or how did they fail, and wanting to do again. But the fundamental aspect of wanting to create is retained, which is a good aspect if you can really hire. And then it's not just about finding them and trying to get them on board, but it is also about building our own, building the trust and credibility of our own company. The important element is also have to have a great story and great. It's not about job descriptions when we are hiring co-founders. It is a story of the company. It is probably the strategy. It is probably what I want to do. How do I want to solve the world hunger and poverty, etc., etc. So those dreams are something that we must keep articulating, extremely well, and for which the co-founder gets really sold into, if I may use the word. But we need to really sell our idea, just like how I'm selling it to probably a potential investor. I'm actually selling my idea to a co-founder also, because the person is definitely going to invest time in my startup idea or venture. And if we have come to a stage where we have a strong team of advisors, if we are already covered for our reviews or of probably a proof of concept or a couple of customer success stories. So these are all also the reasons why the co-founder is also happy to associate. So just how much that I would want to associate with potential probable co-founder, we should also create a document and a story around why a co-founder must want to associate with me. Both are equally important. Then once I have all these in place, like I said, the story and the articulation and the communication of what I wish to do, these are all very critical to attract the best talent of the co-founder. So some of these additional aspects. This is when I've already identified probably or shortlisted a few people, or my investors had referred or put across another co-founder I need to work with. and that is when we go through a process of evaluation. And it's not a wrong idea to actually ask for a trial period if the other person also understands, that relationship of co-founders is a matter of having kind of a living to really try it out for a while, and yes, endorsements from trusted individuals, people who probably the co-founder has a trust in. If we can really get access to get endorsements from them, it's a great idea to prove our own credibility, and also similarly, noteworthy advisors, who can evaluate and define, on our behalf, somebody who's already seen it, done it once or twice, and who knows and understands our startup, and probably who's been on, advisory, etc. So, these are the ways of assessing and evaluating, and we should not leave any stone unturned, as I would say, while we are evaluating and onboarding the co-founder, which is extremely important. And yes, that is the last one, which brings to questions. Masood, I am done.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So we have Shilpi who has raised hand and want to speak to you, Shilpi Johan. So I'm giving access. Hello, Shilpi. Hello.
So are there any questions also
Yeah,
in the chat box?
yeah. So there's one more Sushil who wants to talk. Hello, Sushil, are you there?
Okay.
Yeah, tell me.
You
Hello?
can go ahead with your question, Sushil.
Hello?
Yes, Sushil, we can hear you.
Hello?
Sushil, I can hear you.
Yeah, sir. So I just wanted to ask, sir, where do I find my co-founder? Because I, being a commerce grad, if I want to start my venture, so where will I find my co-founder? So do I need to join any incubator?
No, there are multiple ways and methods, but I mean, you are, you decided in terms of who your, or what definition of who your co-founder would be, that is in terms of skills and skill sets, etc. Or is it that you're still wanting to figure out who your co-founder must be? What stage is your requirement at?
Hello?
Yeah, Sushil, you got it?
Yes. So I asked another question. Is it that you have identified which are the skills that you want to bring a co-founder on board, or is it that you are still looking out to define your the skills?
Yeah, I'm planning to get a technical guy because I'm being a commerce grad, so I'm not well off with that technical stuff.
Okay. And do you so what stage is your startup? Is it a idea stage, or you've already developed something in the
It's just an idea stage. Yeah, right now I'm doing my MBA.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you.
So the usual places could be social networking uh, places where you really find such needs for co-founders already being published, and the other way in which if I were a student and wanting to build a startup, and I do have an idea or something, is to go and network in many of the business plan competitions, or any of the startup ideation events that happen in the city that you live in. For instance, in Hyderabad, I can say that every Saturday there is an ideation startup Saturday happening, and I'm sure in Bangalore as well. and many cities have such events happening, and we need to really take time out to go network and interact with people, and then is how we really get to find the right set of people who we will trust to present our own ideas.
Okay,
So
thank
the
you,
process, it's the longest activity that you do, and probably a few weekends and weekdays to go spend. And I guess that's something that I can think of. But yes, there can be other ways of finding a technology co-founder if you really go and figure out in any of these social networking platforms.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the next question is how to overcome the attrition problem, or the team, to maintain the team in a company.
So I'm assuming this is a company which has already started hiring people, and then there is they hit by attrition.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of I mean, fundamentally, as I said, the flavor of India is attrition, and there's no undermining the problem that it brings to businesses. But yes, therefore it may become it also happens to be hiring becomes a full-time activity for people who are running businesses and companies in one sense. For instance, in a situation when I was probably managing 120, 130 people teams in 5 cities. Almost every evening, after 6 p.m., I used to sit and do interviews, almost on a daily basis. And each Saturday, one half of Saturday is gone for meeting candidates, and that is something as a method, because, like I said, hiring is a supply chain problem. It has what can I say? A complete funnel behavior that it has. So if I meet probably 100 people, I may end up hiring one, or I may end up hiring 10 or 20, depending on what kind of people that are available in the market, and what kind of quality norms and stringent norms that I keep for myself. So which means I need to meet almost 10 times or 15 times of the number of people that I need to hire. So then it becomes a mathematical equation of how many people I want, and what is the kind of attrition, and what percentage of people I need to add to grow. So overall, I get my hiring numbers for a year, and once I have it for a year, I can actually break it down into 50 weeks. Like I said, it's a science. So keep meeting as many people as the equation throws out in the output. That's the only suggestion and solution, as long as India is continuing to deal with this attrition problem. That is on the how do I keep inputting more people, so that even if I'm having some attrition and people are leaving, so I'm still probably insulating my company's plan. Now, having said, retaining and retention is another science in HR, which happens by sheer engagement and the time that we spend with them, and the learning opportunities that we provide for them, and the celebration and the happiness environment that I create in my company. So it's always good to create opportunities to celebrate, opportunities to have fun, and opportunities to bond and engage with people, which to a certain extent reduces the attrition, or probably to a certain extent increases the retention. So that's the second aspect. So on the one hand, I am actually filling my bucket by adding more people, I know it comes with a cost. And on the other hand, I am actually, probably spending a portion of money and lot of time to retain people, and both obviously have to go hand in hand, and we need to balance this activity, and that's the only method, and what is available for us to do to retain our company and the success of the company. Does it answer?
Yeah. So the next question is, what are the pros and cons of having a co-founder?
So, I mean, the pros are obviously, like I said, I don't have one go-to person, which could also be myself. For every small little task and activity, if there are 20 things I have to do in a day, and if more than 10 things are coming onto my table, or one individual's table in my office, then obviously there's a need for adding people. Now, if those tasks are very critical and strategic in nature, in the sense, probably only somebody who has an ownership of the company can handle these tasks and cannot be delegated to a team member, then obviously co-founder is a need, and that is one of the requirements. And two is any startup for it to grow, or any company for it to do well, what is critical is growth in the top line and growth in the bottom line, both. So which means I need to have a huge uh, activities to happen where I'm adding more customers, and at the same time I'm improving efficiencies and hence managing my bottom line. So and then there, if it is a technology company or a specific IP value attached to my solution, then the expert in that technology or the skill. So I can say it is the financial capital, it is the marketing capital, and the technology capital. All three are required for any company's existence and growth. Having said, any individual cannot come with all three different variants all together in one person. So if I'm a good technology person, I may be lacking in skills and abilities to go and address the market, or having to do sales, or probably I'm not too good at finances and understanding of the numbers there. So and obviously I have a need to have people to do that, and having a team versus the pro is there is a lot more ownership, and the other person also equally owns the responsibility and delivers. Whereas if it is a person I hired, then like the previous questions have somebody asked, what happens if I face an action if the person leaves. So co-founders leaving, it will take a longer time, because probably I would have done a lot of research and spent a lot of time while I'm bringing co-founder on board. And the cons could be like the first definition that I told, 62% companies tend to fail because of co-founder conflict. So it's important to ensure the relationship is intact. So does it answer?
Yeah, that's fine, sir. Well, thank you so much, Funny, for the inspiring session. Thank you all attendees for participating in the webinar. We are glad that the questions kept coming in, but due to lack of time, we are unable to answer them all. You can always send in the questions to our support ID, and we are having the next webinar on demystifying marketing on 7th March. Do register. We will be sending the invitations out. and you can also hear the recorded version of this webinar on YouTube. So you can log on to youtube.com/users/eclub online, and you can view the webinar tomorrow. Thank you very much, Pani, and thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, Masood,
Yeah.
and all the participants. Thanks, Anian.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.